The signal came through at 3:47 hours, ship time. It was weak and filled with static, but the words were clear enough to make Captain Jake's blood run cold. This is Dr. Park at Station 7. We are under attack. Unknown hostile force. Hundreds dead. Please, anyone who can hear this, we need help. They are everywhere. They are killing everyone. The message repeated 3 times before it cut into silence. Jake stood on the bridge of the Alliance patrol vessel Horizon's Edge. He was a tall man with gray at his temples and tired eyes that had seen too many battles. Around him, his crew worked at their stations. The ship was small, meant for patrol duty and light escort missions. It was not built for war. "Lieutenant," Jake said, "location of Station 7. Lieutenant pulled up the star charts on her screen. She was young, barely 30, but she had sharp instincts and faster hands on the weapons console than anyone Jake had ever served with. "Station 7 is on the edge of the Orion frontier, Captain. Mining colony. Population of about 3,000, mostly civilians." "How far?" 18 hours at maximum speed. Jake closed his eyes for a moment. 18 hours. A lot of people could die in 18 hours. "Set course," he ordered. "Maximum speed." The helmsman turned to look at him. "Sir, our patrol route takes us in the opposite direction. Command might." "I said set course, Ensign, now." The ship turned, and the engines roared to life. Jake walked to the communication station and opened a channel to the Galactic Council relay. The Council was made up of 12 alien species who had formed an alliance centuries ago. Humanity had joined only 50 years earlier, still newcomers in a galaxy full of ancient civilizations. The response came within minutes. The face that appeared on screen belonged to an Etherian, one of the oldest races in the galaxy. They were tall and thin, with pale blue skin and large dark eyes. This one called himself Observer Prime Kel. "Captain," Kel said. His voice was calm, almost bored. "We have received the distress signal from Station 7. We have analyzed the situation." "Good," Jake said. "Then you know we need to send help." "We know that the colony is lost," Kel replied. "The attackers have been identified as the Swarm. They are a species of predators that have destroyed over 40 civilizations in the past 10,000 years. No force has ever successfully defended against the invasion. The mathematically correct response is evacuation of nearby systems and containment." Jake stared at the screen. "There are 3,000 people on that colony." "There were 3,000 people," Kel corrected. "By our calculations, fewer than 500 remain alive. That number will reach 0 within 72 hours. Sending military forces would only add to the casualty count. The Council recommends that you return to your patrol route and allow the situation to resolve naturally." "Resolve naturally," Jake repeated. "You mean let everyone die?" "Death is a natural resolution, Captain. They must feed. It is their nature. Fighting them is not logical. Every species that has tried has been consumed. Your own species is young and small. You cannot afford to waste resources on impossible battles." Jake felt anger burning in his chest, but he kept his voice steady. "I'm not asking for your permission, Observer. I'm informing you that my ship is en route to Station 7. I'm also requesting backup from Earth Command." Kel's dark eyes blinked slowly. "That would be unwise." "Maybe, but we're going anyway." He cut the transmission. Was watching him from her station. "Captain, he's right about one thing. This ship has a crew of 47. If they are as dangerous as the records say, we won't last 5 minutes." "I know," Jake said. "That's why we're calling home." He opened a new channel, this one encrypted and direct to Earth Command. The signal would take time to reach Earth and more time for a response, but there was no other choice. "Earth Command, this is Captain Jake of the Horizon's Edge. I am responding to a distress call from Station 7 on the Orion frontier. The colony is under attack by a hostile force identified as the Swarm. The Galactic Council has refused assistance and recommended abandonment. I am requesting immediate military backup. Repeat, requesting immediate backup. There are civilians dying out here, and we are not going to leave them." He sent the message and waited. Hours passed. The horizon's edge flew through empty space at speeds that pushed the engines to their limits. Jake did not sleep. He read every report he could find on the. What he found was not encouraging. There were hunters. They moved from world to world, consuming everything in their path. They were fast, strong, and nearly impossible to kill. Their bodies were covered in hard shells that could stop most weapons. They had claws that could cut through steel and acid in their blood that burned through armor. Worst of all, they were smart. They worked together like a single mind, coordinating attacks with perfect timing. Every civilization that had faced them had fallen. The Etherians had survived only by sacrificing 3 of their colony worlds to satisfy the swarm. Other races had not been so lucky. Some had been wiped out completely. And now they were on a human colony. 12 hours into the journey, the response from Earth Command finally arrived. A face appeared on the screen. It belonged to Admiral Thomas Reed, a man Jake had served under years ago. Reed was old now, his hair white and his face lined with age, but his eyes were still sharp. "Captain," Reed said, "we received your message. The Council has contacted us and advised us to ignore your request. They say the colony is already lost and that sending troops would be a waste of human lives." Jake's heart sank. "Sir, I'm not finished, Captain." Reed leaned forward. "The Council can take their advice and shove it somewhere unpleasant. Those are our people on that colony. We don't leave our people to die." Jake felt hope spark in his chest. "Backup is authorized," Reed continued. "I'm deploying the 77th Expeditionary Marine Division. They're the best we have. Mean, ugly, and too stubborn to know when they're beaten. Their fleet will reach your position approximately 6 hours after you arrive at the colony." "Understood, sir." "One more thing, Captain. The Council thinks we're soft because we're new to space. They think we're going to run like everyone else did. They're wrong. Show them what humans do when someone threatens our own." "Yes, sir." Reed's eyes softened just slightly. "Hold the line, Captain. The wolves are coming." The transmission ended. Jake turned to face his crew. They were watching him, waiting. He could see fear in some of their eyes, but he could also see something else. Determination. "You heard the Admiral," Jake said. "We're going in. Our job is to reach that colony and protect as many people as we can until the Marines arrive. It's going to be dangerous. Some of us might not come back. If anyone wants to object, now is the time." No one spoke. Smiled grimly. "Captain, if you think we're going to let you have all the fun, you don't know this crew very well." Jake almost smiled back. "Then let's go save some lives." The horizon's edge flew on through the darkness of space, toward a world under siege, toward monsters that had never been defeated. And somewhere behind them, the wolves were coming. The horizon's edge dropped out of faster-than-light travel and Station 7 filled the. From orbit, the planet looked peaceful. Brown and gray surface, thin atmosphere, nothing special. Just another mining world on the edge of human space. Then the sensors started screaming. "Captain, I'm reading massive life signs across the colony zone," said, her fingers flying across her console. "Thousands of them. They're everywhere." "Human life signs." Paused, her face went pale. "Some, maybe 200. They're clustered in the underground mining tunnels on the eastern ridge. The rest of the colony is." She stopped. "Gone," Jake finished for her. "The rest is gone." He stared at the planet below. 3,000 people had lived here yesterday. Now only 200 remained, hiding underground like rats while monsters hunted above. "We're going down," Jake said. "Sergeant Carter, assemble a ground team. We're evacuating survivors." Sergeant Ben Carter was a big man with a shaved head and arms covered in old scars. He had been a soldier for 20 years and had fought in 3 different wars. Nothing scared him. But when he looked at the sensor data, even he looked worried. "How many hostiles are we talking about?" he asked. "Sensors can't give an exact count," replied. "But based on movement patterns, I would estimate between 5 and 10,000. Carter whistled low, "And we have 47 people." "The Marines are 6 hours behind us," Jake said. "We don't need to win, we just need to hold." 20 minutes later, Jake led a team of 12 down to the surface. They landed near the entrance to the mining tunnels, where a heavy steel door had been sealed shut from the inside. The surface around them was covered in destruction. Buildings had been torn apart. Mining equipment lay scattered and broken, and everywhere there were bodies. Jake had seen death before. He had fought in battles and watched friends die, but this was different. These people had not died fighting. They had died running. Men, women, children, all of them cut down as they tried to escape. "Stay focused," he told his team. "We can mourn later. Right now we have a job to do." Private Amy was the youngest member of the team. She was barely 22, fresh out of training, and this was her first real mission. She stood near the back of the group, her rifle shaking slightly in her hands. Corporal David Lee, a veteran scout with sharp eyes, put a hand on her shoulder. "Breathe," he said quietly. "Watch your corners, stay close." Amy nodded and gripped her rifle. Jake approached the sealed door and activated his communicator. "This is Captain Jake of the Alliance vessel Horizon's Edge. We received your distress call. We're here to help. Please open the door." For a long moment, nothing happened. Then slowly, the door began to grind open. Behind it stood a woman in a dirty lab coat, her face streaked with tears and exhaustion. "Dr. Park." "You came," she whispered. "We didn't think anyone would come." "We don't leave people behind," Jake said. "How many survivors?" 212. Mostly workers from the deep mines who were underground when the attack started. "We've been hiding in the tunnels for 2 days. We're running out of food and water. We're going to get you out of here, all of you." Led them into the tunnels. The mines went deep into the planet's crust, a maze of passages and chambers carved out over decades of work. The survivors were gathered in a large cavern about a kilometer underground. They looked broken, scared. Many were injured. Children clung to their parents. Old men and women sat against the walls with empty eyes. Chief Engineer Mike Santos came forward to meet them. He was a thick man with grease-stained hands and a face that showed he hadn't slept in days. "Captain, thank God you're here. We've been trying to hold them off, but they keep coming." "Hold them off?" Jake asked. "They've breached the tunnels 3 times. We sealed the passages with mining charges, but they find new ways in. They're smart. They learn from every attack." As if to prove his words, a distant sound echoed through the tunnels. A clicking, scratching noise that made everyone freeze. "They're coming again," said. Jake turned to his team. "Defensive positions. Carter, take half the squad to the east tunnel. I'll take the west. Coordinate from here and watch the sensors." They moved fast. Jake's team reached the western tunnel just as the first came around the corner. He had seen pictures in the reports, but nothing had prepared him for seeing one in person. The creature was nearly 3 meters tall, covered in black armor that gleamed like wet stone. It had 6 legs and 2 massive arms ending in claws the length of swords. Its head was a nightmare of mandibles and glowing red eyes that fixed on Jake with hungry intelligence. It screamed, a sound like metal tearing, and charged. Jake opened fire. His rifle rounds sparked off the creature's shell, barely slowing it down. Beside him, his team fired everything they had. The stumbled, holes appearing in its armor, but it kept coming. "Aim for the joints," David Lee shouted. "The armor is weaker there." Jake adjusted his aim and fired at the creature's leg. This time the rounds punched through. The collapsed, still screaming, still trying to crawl forward. Jake stepped up and put 3 rounds into its head. It finally stopped moving. But there were more behind it, many more. The tunnel filled with black shapes. They came in waves, climbing over each other, filling the air with their terrible screaming. Jake's team fell back, firing constantly, trying to hold the line. In the East Tunnel, Carter's team faced the same nightmare. Private Amy stood her ground, firing until her rifle overheated, then switching to her sidearm. Corporal Lee dragged a wounded soldier to safety while still shooting with his free hand. The fighting went on for what felt like hours but was probably only 20 minutes. When the last finally fell back, the tunnel floor was covered in bodies, alien and human. Jake counted his losses, 2 dead, 4 wounded. They had held but just barely. "Captain's voice came through his communicator. "I'm picking up transmissions from orbit. An Etherian observation ship is watching us." "Watching us, not helping." "No, sir, they're just watching, recording, I think." Jake felt cold anger in his chest. The great civilizations of the galaxy were content to sit back and watch humanity die. They expected nothing else. They had seen this story before, played out across countless worlds. The prey runs, the prey hides, the prey dies. That was how it always went. But they had never watched humans before. "Let them watch," Jake said. "They're about to learn something about our species." Above the planet, observer Prime Kell sat in his vessel and monitored the battle below. His species had observed for 10,000 years. He knew all the patterns. The defenders always broke eventually. Fear took them. Logic took them. They realized they could not win and they tried to flee. But these humans were not fleeing. They were not even retreating. They were fighting and dying and still holding their ground. Kell opened a transmission to the Galactic Council. His voice, for the first time in centuries, carried a note of uncertainty. "The humans are fighting. They should be fleeing. This species does not behave according to survival protocols. Continue observation. Something unexpected is happening here." 6 hours, it felt like 6 years. Jake sat with his back against the tunnel wall, blood from a cut on his forehead dripping down his face. Around him, what remained of his team reloaded weapons, bandaged wounds, and tried to catch their breath. The survivors huddled behind them, too scared to speak, too tired to cry anymore. They had held off 4 more attacks, each one worse than the last. They were testing them, learning their defenses, finding weaknesses. The creatures were patient. They had all the time in the world. They knew the humans would break eventually. Sergeant Carter limped over and sat down next to Jake. His left arm hung in a makeshift sling, and his face was covered in burns from acid blood. "We're down to 30% ammunition, Captain. Maybe 2 more attacks. After that, we're fighting with rocks and harsh language." "Help is coming," Jake said. "I know. Question is whether we'll still be alive when it gets here." His voice came through the communicator, sharp with excitement. "Captain, new contacts entering the system. 3 ships coming in fast." Jake grabbed his rifle and pushed himself to his feet. Identification. Alliance military signatures. Heavy cruisers. "It's the 77th, sir. The Marines are here." A ragged cheer went up from the survivors. Jake felt something loosen in his chest. They might actually survive this. The lead cruiser opened a communication channel. A woman's face appeared on Jake's portable screen. She was in her 50s, with short gray hair and a face that looked like it had been carved from stone. Colonel Sarah Hayes, commander of the 77th Expeditionary Marine Division. Her troops called her the Iron Wolf, and looking at her eyes, Jake understood why. "Captain," she said, "looks like you've been having a rough day." "You could say that, Colonel." "Situation report." Jake told her everything. The number of survivors, the strength of the enemy, the layout of the tunnels. The colonel listened without interrupting, her expression never changing. When he finished, she nodded once. "Understood. We're deploying in 15 minutes. Hold your position." "Colonel, if I may ask, what's the plan?" "Evacuation." Hayes smiled. It was not a warm smile. It was the smile of a wolf seeing prey. Negative, Captain. We're not running. We're going to kill every last one of these things. The transmission ended. 15 minutes later, the sky above Station 7 filled with. They came down like falling stars, dozens of them, screaming through the thin atmosphere and touching down in a perfect ring around the colony. Their doors opened and the Marines poured out. These were not ordinary soldiers. The 77th was an elite force, equipped with the best weapons and armor humanity had ever built. They wore powered exoskeletons that made them faster and stronger. They carried rifles that fired explosive rounds designed to punch through vehicle armor. They moved with the precision of a machine and the fury of an animal. Pilot Officer Jenny flew the lead. She was young, barely older than Private Amy, but she had ice in her veins and nerves of steel. Her ship dove straight into the thickest cluster of, dropping soldiers right into the heart of the swarm. "Contact!" shouted Master Sergeant Tom as he hit the ground running. He was a big man with a shaved head and a grin that never seemed to leave his face, even when things were at their worst. Especially when things were at their worst. "Come on, you ugly bugs. Come meet your new friends." He raised his heavy weapon and opened fire. The explosive rounds tore through armor like paper. Creatures that had shrugged off rifle fire exploded into pieces. Around him, his squad did the same, cutting paths through the swarm. For the first time, the faltered. Colonel Hayes stood at the center of her formation, directing the battle like a conductor leading an orchestra. Her voice was calm and steady as she gave orders. "Alpha Company, push east. Beta Company, secure the tunnel entrance. Charlie Company with me. We're going into the nest." The Marines advanced across the colony in perfect formation. Where they went, died. The creatures tried to swarm them, to overwhelm them with numbers, but the powered armor was too strong, the weapons too deadly. For every Marine that fell, 50 were cut down. Above the planet, Observer Prime Kell watched in disbelief. In 10,000 years, he had never seen anything like this. "They are not defending," he whispered to himself. "They are attacking, they are hunting the hunters." He opened a channel to the Galactic Council. "Emergency report. The human military reinforcements have arrived. They are not evacuating. They are engaging in direct combat, and they are winning." Back on the surface, the tide of battle had completely turned. The Marines pushed the back from the colony, clearing building after building, tunnel after tunnel. Master Sergeant led a team into the underground caves with seismic charges. "Plant them here, here, and here," he ordered, marking positions on his map. "These tunnels connect to the main hive network. We blow them, we cut off the swarm's reinforcement routes." His team worked fast, planting charges deep in the rock. When they were done, pulled out the detonator and grinned. "Fire in the hole." The charges exploded. The ground shook. Miles of tunnel collapsed, burying thousands of alive. The creatures' screams echoed through the earth as their escape routes disappeared. Colonel Hayes reached the entrance to the mining tunnels where Jake and the survivors waited. She looked at the exhausted captain and his ragged team of defenders. She looked at the civilian survivors behind them, the wounded, the scared, the ones who had been left for dead by the rest of the galaxy. "Captain," she said, extending her hand, "hell of a job holding this position." Jake shook her hand. "We lost good people, Colonel." "They died protecting their own. That's the only death worth dying." She turned to address the survivors. "Listen up. My name is Colonel Sarah Hayes. The 77th Marine Division is here, and we are not leaving until every one of you is safe and every one of those monsters is dead. You've been told that the can't be beaten. You've been told to run and hide and accept your fate. Well, humanity doesn't accept fate. We punch fate in the face and make our own." A Marine handed her a rifle. She checked the ammunition and nodded with satisfaction. "Now, if you'll excuse me, I have some aliens to kill." She walked toward the battle lines, followed by her command squad. Jake watched her go with something like awe. Private Amy stood beside him, her fear replaced by something else. Hope. "Captain," she said, "are all Marines like her?" "The good ones," Jake replied. Above the planet, Observer Prime Kell continued to watch. He had reported to the Council 3 more times, each report more alarmed than the last. The Council was in emergency session, debating what this meant, what it could mean. One of the elder Etherians asked the question that was on everyone's mind. If these humans can defeat what else are they capable of? What happens when they turn this ferocity against others? No one had an answer. On the surface of Station 7, the Marines continued their advance. They fell back, regrouped, and fell back again. For the first time in their history, they faced something they had never encountered before. A species that did not run. Deep beneath the surface of Station 7, in caverns that had never seen light, the Queen waited. She was ancient. She had lived for 3,000 years and had led her swarm across 100 worlds. She had consumed civilizations that had existed for. She had faced every weapon, every strategy, every desperate defense that prey could offer. And she had always won. Her body filled an entire cavern, a massive shape of black armor and writhing limbs. Around her, thousands of her children crawled and clicked and waited for her commands. They were extensions of her will, her eyes and claws spread across the planet. And through those eyes, she had watched something impossible. Her children were dying, not slowly, not one by one, but in waves. The new prey, the small, soft creatures called humans, were not behaving like prey. They were fighting back. They were winning. The Queen sent more children to the surface, thousands more. They would overwhelm the humans with numbers, drown them in bodies. That was how it had always worked. But hours passed and still the humans held. Still they advanced. For the first time in 3,000 years, the Queen felt something she did not recognize. It took her a long moment to identify it. Fear. On the surface, Colonel Hayes gathered her command staff in the ruins of the colony's main building. Maps and sensor data covered the walls. The battle had been raging for 12 hours, and while the Marines were winning, it was not enough. "We've killed over 20,000 of them," Hayes said, "but they keep coming. They're being reinforced from somewhere underground. Intel suggests there's a central hive, probably connected to some kind of leader." "A queen," said Dr. Park, who had been brought in to share her knowledge of the caves. "They operate like a hive mind. They have a queen who controls them all. If you kill her, the swarm will collapse." "Where is she?" Pulled up a map of the cave system. "Here, about 3 kilometers underground at the center of the deepest cavern network. The tunnels are filled with, thousands of them packed tight. No way to get a large force through." Hayes studied the map. "Then we don't send a large force. We send a small team, fast and quiet, with one objective: kill the Queen." "That's a suicide mission," Captain said. "Yes," Hayes agreed, "it is." Commander Lisa stepped forward. She was a special operations officer, small and lean with short dark hair and eyes that missed nothing. "I'll lead it." Hayes looked at her. "You understand what you're volunteering for?" "I do, Colonel. If there's a chance to end this and save lives, I'm taking it." 7 others volunteered within minutes. Marines who knew they might not come back. Marines who chose to go anyway. Dr. Park volunteered as well. "I've mapped those caves. I can guide them through the fastest route." Tried to stop her. "Doctor, you're a civilian. You don't have to do this." Smiled sadly. "Those are my people up there, Captain. The ones who died, the ones who survived. I have to do this." The team departed at midnight local time. 9 people against thousands. They carried light weapons, explosives, and 1 antimatter charge powerful enough to destroy everything within a kilometer. The caves were dark and filled with the sound of clicking and scratching. They were everywhere, moving through the tunnels, searching for intruders. Lisa led her team slowly, carefully, using shadows and side passages to avoid detection. They made it 2 kilometers before they were spotted. A scout saw them and screamed. Within seconds, the tunnel behind them filled with black shapes. "Run," Lisa ordered. The team ran. They fired behind them as they moved, slowing the swarm but not stopping it. The narrow tunnels became a nightmare of flashing weapons and screaming aliens. One Marine fell, then another. They did not stop. They could not stop. Led them through a maze of passages, taking turns that seemed random but always brought them closer to the goal. "Left here. Now right. There's a gap ahead, we can seal it." They reached a narrow choke point. Master Sergeant, who had volunteered despite his wounds from earlier, turned back to face the swarm. "Go, I'll hold them." Lisa started. "That's an order, Commander. Kill that queen." He planted himself in the passage and opened fire. They came at him in waves and he killed them until his ammunition ran out, then killed them with his knife, then killed them with his bare hands. He died standing, still fighting. The remaining team pushed forward, 5 of them now, then 4, then 3. They reached the Queen's cavern. She was waiting for them. Her massive form filled the space, surrounded by hundreds of her children. Her eyes, dozens of them, fixed on the tiny humans at the entrance. One of the survivors, a young Marine named Wells, charged forward to clear a path. She died with a smile on her face, taking a dozen with her. Lisa stood alone, facing the Queen. The Queen spoke. Her voice came through a captured translation device, deep and ancient. "Why do you not flee, little prey? You must know you cannot win. You must know you will die here." Lisa pulled the antimatter charge from her pack and armed it. "We know." "Then why? What drives you to throw away your lives? Is it madness? Is it pride?" Lisa thought about the people in the tunnels above. The children, the survivors, the Marines who had died to protect them. She thought about Earth, about humanity, about everything her species had built and everything they still might become. "You hunt the weak," she said. "You prey on those who cannot fight back. That's what makes you monsters. But humans were different. We protect the weak. We die for strangers. We fight impossible battles because someone has to." She smiled. "And when you threaten the people we love, we become the most dangerous creatures in the galaxy." The Queen's eyes narrowed. "You are small, you are fragile, you are nothing." "Maybe, but this nothing is about to kill you." Lisa pressed the trigger. The antimatter charge detonated. A sun was born in the heart of the mountain, white and furious and absolute. The Queen screamed as her body was torn apart. Her children screamed with her, feeling the death of their mother through the bond they shared. And then there was silence. On the surface, the effect was immediate. They stopped moving. Their coordination broke. The unified swarm became a chaotic mass of confused, directionless creatures. The Marines advanced and cut them down. Within hours it was over. They were defeated. The colony was saved. Colonel Hayes stood at the entrance to the caves, staring into the darkness. She did not cry. She had lost too many soldiers over the years to cry anymore. But she remembered. She always remembered. "Commander Lisa," she said quietly. "Master Sergeant Tom, Corporal Wells." She continued, listing every name, every sacrifice. Behind her, the sun rose over Station 7. The first sunrise in 3 days that did not bring fear. The true beasts of the galaxy had revealed themselves, and they were human. 3 days after the battle ended, the dead were still being counted. Captain Jake walked through the ruins of Station 7, stepping over broken machines and shattered buildings. The air smelled of smoke and blood and something else, something alien. The bodies were being collected and burned. There were so many of them that the fires would burn for weeks. 847 human soldiers had died. Marines, crew from the horizon's edge, volunteers from among the colonists who had picked up weapons and stood on the line. Each one had a name. Each one had a family somewhere who would receive the worst news of their lives. but 212 colonists had survived. Men, women, children who should have died in the darkness. They were alive because soldiers had come when no one else would. That was the math. That was what it cost, and somehow Jake thought it was worth it. He found Sergeant Ben Carter in the field hospital, sitting up in bed with his arm in a proper cast. Around him, a group of children were listening to him tell a story about fighting pirates in the asteroid belt. The story was probably only half true, but the children did not care. They were smiling. After everything they had been through, they were smiling. Carter saw Jake and nodded. "Captain, good to see you still standing. Good to see you still talking. Doctors say you'll make a full recovery. Takes more than a few bugs to put me down." Carter's voice was light, but his eyes were serious. 847, I heard. Yes. Worth it. Jake looked at the children. One little girl was holding Carter's good hand, telling him about her cat back home. "Yeah," he said, "it was worth it." Dr. Park had survived somehow. She had been found unconscious near the cave entrance, thrown clear by the explosion that had killed the Queen. She had burns on her arms and a concussion that would take months to fully heal, but she was alive. When Jake visited her, she was already back to work, studying samples of tissue, trying to understand the creatures that had nearly destroyed her home. They were not evil, she said when Jake asked her about them. They were just doing what their nature demanded. They hunted because that was what they were made to do. They could not imagine any other way to exist. "And us," Jake asked, "what are we made to do?" Thought about it for a moment. Protect each other, I think, no matter the cost. Colonel Hayes held a memorial service on the fourth day. The survivors gathered in the largest remaining building, a warehouse that had been cleaned and filled with chairs. The names of the dead were read aloud, one by one. It took over an hour. When it was done, Hayes spoke. "Every person we honor today died fighting. Not for glory, not for conquest. They died protecting strangers. They died so that others could live. That is the highest calling any soldier can answer." She paused, looking over the crowd. "The galaxy told us to run. The galaxy told us to abandon our own. We did not listen. We will never listen, because that is not who we are." She saluted the flag that hung behind her, the flag of Earth, of humanity. "Rest well, soldiers, you have earned it." Far away, in the great chamber of the Galactic Council, a different kind of gathering was taking place. Representatives from 12 alien species sat in a circle, their faces displaying various forms of shock and fear. Observer Prime Kell stood at the center, presenting his report. The images he showed were difficult to watch. Humans fighting against impossible odds. Humans advancing when they should have retreated. Humans dying and still not giving up. "The swarm at Station 7 numbered approximately 43,000, Kell said. "The human defenders killed all of them. The swarm is broken. The Queen is dead. For the first time in recorded history, an invasion has been completely defeated." The council was silent for a long moment. "This should not be possible," said the representative from the hegemony. "They have consumed civilizations far older and more powerful than humanity. How did these newcomers succeed where everyone else failed?" Kell considered his answer carefully. "I have studied the data extensively. The humans did not win through superior technology or numbers. They won through something else, something we do not have a word for in our languages." He paused. "They call it stubbornness, or perhaps courage. They simply refused to accept defeat, even when defeat was certain." "That is illogical," said the Etherian elder, the oldest member of the council. "Survival is the highest priority for any species. Throwing lives away in impossible battles serves no evolutionary purpose." "And yet," Kell replied, "they threw their lives away, and they won." Another silence. Finally, the elder spoke again. "This changes things. We invited humanity into our alliance because they were weak and new and seemed harmless. We thought they would be useful as a buffer between us and more dangerous threats. We were wrong. What are they, then? Asked the representative. The elder's dark eyes were troubled. They are something we have not seen before. They do not fight for survival alone. They fight for each other. They protect their weak instead of abandoning them. They will sacrifice themselves for strangers. He shook his head slowly. We have called them prey. We have called them newcomers. We were fools. They are predators of the highest order. They are pack hunters who will die for the pack. Ambassador entered the chamber at that moment. He was humanity's representative to the council, a quiet man with gray hair and a calm expression. He had been listening from the doorway. "May I speak?" he asked. The elder nodded, walked to the center of the chamber and looked at each representative in turn. You have spent 50 years treating humanity like children, like pets, like useful tools to be deployed and discarded. 3 days ago, we sent a distress call to this council, and you told us to let our people die. His voice was steady, but there was steel beneath it. We did not listen. We sent our soldiers anyway, and they succeeded where every other species in this galaxy has failed. Not because we are stronger or smarter or more advanced, but because we will never, ever abandon our own. He let those words hang in the air. They were your nightmare for 10,000 years. They are gone now. Humanity killed them. Remember that the next time you think about leaving us to die. Remember that we came when you called for help, even when you had abandoned us. And remember that if you ever threaten what we love, we will become something far more terrifying than they ever were. He turned to leave, then paused at the door. We are not your prey. We are not your predators. We are protectors. And protectors, when threatened, become the most dangerous beasts in the galaxy. He walked out. The council sat in stunned silence. 2 weeks later, Captain Jake stood on the bridge of the horizon's edge as it departed Station 7. The colony would rebuild. The survivors would heal. Life would continue. Lieutenant stood beside him, watching the planet shrink on the "Where to next, Captain?" Jake smiled. He thought about Lisa and Tom and all the others who had given everything. He thought about the children who would grow up because of their sacrifice. He thought about what it meant to be human. Wherever they need us, he said, that's where we go. The ship turned toward the stars and flew into the darkness. Behind them, the galaxy had changed forever. The true beasts had revealed themselves. And they were just getting started.